Let's face it, in order to become a better writer, you have to study the craft of writing. But how do you do it? You can't go to the store and purchase a blueprint for how to become a mega bestseller, right? So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to study the craft of writing. What's up, guys? Michael Laron here with Author Level Up, helping you write world-class stories better and faster. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and click that little bell, ding, 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 to get notifications every week when I have a new video. And in this video, we're talking about writing craft. How do you get better? How do you study the writing craft? Writing and writers are almost at a disadvantage when you think about it, because if you think about painting, there's a curriculum there. There are certain steps you have to follow to learn how to become a painter. I played the saxophone for years. There are certain steps that you can follow to learn how to play the saxophone at a masterful level. You can go off and you can buy scale books, you can buy practice books, and you can get instruction. But writing is very unstructured. So how do you thrive in this unstructured environment and become a better writer on the level of all the bestsellers that we read on a daily basis? I want to offer you 7 practical tips that I think will help you become a better writer. The first is, as I mentioned, the writing life is very unstructured. So the first thing that I recommend is to create structure, and that is to develop a learning plan. So on the first day of school, you go to your class, and your teacher or your professor, what do? They hand out a syllabus, right? And a syllabus has a list and dates of everything that you're going to learn in that class for the entire semester. Well, why don't we do that with the writing life? So the tip of developing a learning plan is really no different. It's just figuring out all the different things that you want to learn in the writing life and what are all the different components of being a writer, right? So what are the different components of writing a main character? How do you write a minor character? How do you establish a setting? How do you establish character voice? How do you establish author voice? All these things can be learned, but you just have to be aware that they exist first. So what I'm willing to do, if you guys want, I can develop a learning plan kind of based on the one that I did for myself a few years back. And I'd be happy to do that. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do that. My second tip is to develop an apprentice mindset. So what I recommend, and you can do this with any book, but I think it's more effective when you do it with authors that you like. But pick an author that you like and commit to reading at least 5 books by that author. Now, preferably this should be somebody who's still alive, preferably someone who's still writing, but it's your choice. But pick 5 books by that person. And then what I want you to do is develop that apprentice mindset. So imagine that you're going to this author's office after school and they're imparting all of the techniques and tips that they're using. What can you learn from that person? Keep an observation log. Write down some of the things that you noticed that this author did that hooked you on the page. Pick 2 or 3 sections per book and look at them. Now, I think the mistake that a lot of people make is they think, well, I have to analyze an entire book that someone wrote in order to figure it. No, don't do that. That's a waste of time. Pick 2 or 3 sections that grabbed you as a reader, and each of those 2 or 3 sections should probably be a couple pages long max, and then look at those pages and figure out what the craft techniques were. Remember, pretend that that author is teaching you their tricks. They're teaching you how to write character. They're teaching you how to establish a scene, how to establish setting. You're learning all of this from this author, and it's an apprenticeship that doesn't cost you very much. My third tip for you is to study differently based on the medium that you're reading. So for ebooks and paperbacks, what I want you to pay attention to when you're reading is the visual arrangement of how the author writes things on the page. How do the opening chapters, what do they look like on the page? What do the chase scenes look like on the page? What do the scenes where maybe the characters are falling in love, what do those scenes look like on the page? That can tell you a lot about how you want your pages to look like. When you're listening to audio, what I want you to pay attention to is how the story is narrated. Pay attention to the cadence, pay attention to the dialogue, pay attention to the pacing. All of these things, if you listen for them, you can start to implement those into your own writing. Same thing with ebooks and paperbacks with the visual piece. For, only study writers that you love. Now, like I said, some of these exercises can be used with any writer, but I think it's most effective when you study the writers that you love, because when you start to look at the writers whose style gels best with you, I think you're going to get more out of your study sessions. My fifth tip is to study in increments, right? Don't block aside an entire weekend to study a book. I think that anything you do in the writing life, particularly with the writing craft, should be practical. So all of the tips that I'm offering in this video, you can do in 15 to 20-minute increments. I think that you'll learn more from it, and also it'll be more practical for you. My sixth tip is the most important tip in this entire video, and that is to study elements in isolation. So, don't let anybody talk you into studying novels at the big picture level, right? So the bigger the picture, the less you're going to learn. So you can't really learn a whole lot from plot, right? You can't really learn a whole lot from looking at a character arc, but you can learn a lot about looking at certain elements in isolation. So, for example, if you're looking at a main character and how to write an anti-hero, I would think small and think small and small and small. That's a weird phrase. But think about it like this. Instead of how can I learn from this novel how to write an anti-hero? That's too broad. Instead, how can I learn how to open a novel that's written in the perspective of an anti-hero, right? So now you're forcing yourself to look at just the opening of the novel and looking at what the writer is doing. How can I learn to write a sex scene, right, where both of the characters have just come off of a major fight? Right? That's how small I want you to be thinking when you're looking at studying the craft, because then if you think small, you'll find that you really start seeing things that you would have never seen if you were just looking at the big picture. And tip number 7 is to develop what I like to call a swipe file of writing techniques. So, you think about copywriting, we all have to learn the craft of copywriting when we're writing our book descriptions. And what people often advise is to develop a swipe file. So if you see a phrase that's really cool or a copywriting technique that you like, take that and figure out how you can use that in your own work, right? So why not do the same thing with writing techniques? If you see a technique that an author used that's like, wow, I really liked how they established this scene, or I really liked how the main character really made me feel like I was there, right? Or the author made me feel like I was there. Well, figure out what those techniques are. What did the author do on the page to make that happen? And then use your log or keep notes, and you can do that the next time around when you're writing, and you can implement that into your own story. Because I think that the last piece is you can study the writing craft all day long, but it's really easy to forget. And so the better you are about keeping logs and writing down your observations, the better off you'll be down the road, because you'll always have something that you can refer to. And if you need more help with improving your writing craft, I've actually written a free book dedicated to this entire topic. It will give you some writing techniques that you can start practicing right away. And it's called the Writing Craft Playbook, 20 Secrets to Help Keep Your Readers in the Zone. You can get it for free at authorlevelup.com/fanclub. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I will talk to you in the next video, and don't forget to subscribe.
Perfect.